I am here with our legendary coach, Billy Joe, at his home, relaxing, Southern hospitality here in Alabama, right outside of Birmingham. Coach, how's it been going, man?
It's been going real well thus far. I'm here in Hoover, Alabama. I'm retired, and I tell my wife when I'm sitting in my recliner, I feel like I'm 21. But when I have to climb my steps, I feel like I'm 82. But I'm well.
Well, great, Coach. And man, when you say your name around FAMU, people's faces light up. It was a great era. It was just dominant Rattler football. There was so much pride and so many great athletes and just excitement about those fall Saturdays when you were there. Just talk a little bit about your time there at FAMU.
Well, of course, I always wanted that FAMU job. Even when I was the head football coach at Cheney University back in the early 1970s. And as a matter of fact, in 1972, I interviewed with Coach Gaither for the job, and he told me, he said, "Coach, you're just not ready for the job yet. You've only been a coach for 1 year, and you ain't experienced." He said, when you get experience and you establish yourself and, come back and talk to me then, because the job was open. And I took his advice and continued at Cheney, spent some time with the Philadelphia Eagles. We played in the 1981 Super Bowl, went to Central State University for 13 years, won some national championships there. As a matter of fact, we won 5 sequential National Black College Championships there.
Well, Coach, let me stop you right there. Unfortunately, I was playing for the Rattlers one of those years that you won one of those national championships, and y'all were not very nice up at the Circle City Classic.
Oh, yes. I think we put almost 50 points on FAMU at that time.
And Tony O'Neill will not let me forget it.
Right.
Tony O'Neill will not let me forget it.
Yeah.
He said we were talking too much junk. Bruce Norfleet and all of them, he said they were talking so much junk that the guys just said, you know what? We about to go ring out these Rattlers, and they did. So I was a victim of one of those national championships.
Right, yeah, we had a great time. I think it was 1986. That was our first National Black College Championship. And Tony was an outstanding tight end for me. And he, of course, spent a lot of time at BCU. And we had to have a few arguments about that.
Right.
Because I was a FAMU and he was a Wildcat.
Right.
But yes, 5 consecutive championships. But then the job opened up several times and I was still rebuffed and couldn't get the FAMU job. But then it opened up again in 1993. And I said, hey, I'm not going to apply for the job. We've won some championships and I've established myself. I'm not going to apply for the job. I'm going to let FAMU come after me. Well, FAMU didn't come after me. So I went after FAMU again. And Dr. Reed was the athletic director. And I called him up and he was surprised that I would want the job.
Right.
I said, I've been after this job for the last couple of decades. So we met and we spoke about it and, he brought me on in. We had a real good interview at the Atlanta airport. And he said, the job is yours.
Oh, wow.
But I accepted the job before I retired at Central State. And Dr. Humphreys wanted me to speak at an affair in Atlanta, and of course, I didn't have a contract with FAMU, and at that time, I didn't have a contract with Central State. So I said, my speech better be great. I'm out of a job. But the next day, I met with Dr. Humphreys, and I told him, how long I've been after the job. And I said, hey, I've been after the job for a long time. I said, but I'm not going to be like a dog chasing a car. When a dog chases a car and he catches that car, he doesn't know what to do with it. I know what to do with this. I know what to do with this football program. We're going to win, and we're going to win a lot.
Oh, man. Yeah, it did you win. My goodness.
Yes.
My goodness. It was 11 years, was it?
11 years.
Wow.
11 great years at FAM, had an outstanding time, met a lot of good people, still have those relationships going, still communicating with a lot of folks in Tally and at the school. So it's a great relationship. It was a great time.
Yeah, and if you talk to, I had a talk with, happened to be talking to Mario Allen and Quinn Gray. And they were collaborating on just how the Gulf Coast offense came to be.
Right.
So I've heard Quinn's side, I've heard Mario's side. I want to hear Billy Joe's side. How did you come up with the Gulf Coast offense?
Gulf Coast offense really, in essence, is a quarterback's dream offense. So there's a lot of things on the quarterback to know what the defense was trying to do to you and being able to take advantage of what they were trying to do to you and counter what they were doing. You had to have receivers that were smart, that were able to read defenses, and also that were able to read different zones, man coverages, and things of that magnitude. So, you know, quarterbacks had a lot of freedom in that offense, and it's a very, very quarterback-friendly type of system.
Honestly, Coach Billy Joe first 2 years was, well, actually my last 2 years was Coach Joe first 2 years. And we had we had a very disappointing season before that with Coach Riley. We ended up losing Tracy Weldon and Keith Brown in the same game against Jackson State. We started out, if I can remember correctly, we were 5-0. But we ended up losing 2 quarterbacks in the same game, and we had to turn around and come in with a freshman quarterback by the name of a guy by the name of Cooper out of Atlanta, Georgia. And to make a long story short, you know, you can't lose homecoming and to Bethune-Cookman in the same year. And they brought Coach Joe in. In fact, we kind of brought him in late. Because they was having some issues with who they was going to bring in for the next head coach. And when we first got here, his first year, I think we were 6-5, and we were 2-back set, kind of like trying to find our way of what our team identity was going to be at that time. Was up in Atlanta, and we got behind 21-0. 21-0. And it seems like out of nowhere, Coach made a substitution, brought in Mario Allen. It came out 4 wide. And end of the third quarter, we talking about 21-21. I mean, we saw offense that we haven't seen all year. I be honest with you, I can't remember when they actually practiced the West Coast or the Gulf Coast offense.
Well, the Gulf Coast offense, I guess the genesis goes all the way back to when I was playing professional football. I always noticed that the last 2 minutes of the game, teams would go into a 2-minute drill and they just move up and down the field, you know? And then when I became the backfield coach for the Philadelphia Eagles, and of course we played in the 1981 Super Bowl game, and teams again would get into the 2-minute speed drill and go up and down the field. So I said, well, why don't folks use the 2-minute speed drill for 60 minutes? If you can go up down the field like that, because as soon as the team gets in the 2-minute drill, the defense gets scared. They give you a basic front, a basic coverage that any quarterback can beat. There's nothing complicated because you're moving quickly. You don't have enough time to change up.
Right.
So defensive coordinators will just give you a simple zone coverage, and they give you a simple old front that you can easily read and beat. And since you're going nonstop, your defensive linemen are going to get tired, so the quarterback can sit back there all day with no rush. and you got an elementary coverage that you can pick apart.
Oh.
So I said, when I become a head coach, that's what we're going to do. So the Gulf Coast offense is basically a 2-minute speed drill that's run for 60 minutes. And from whistle to whistle, and from goal line to goal line, and sideline to sideline. You open up your offense and you spread it out real wide so that the defense individually have to cover one-on-one. They can't double coverage, can't rotate, can't do anything but play you one-on-one. And we are going to throw it deep because we want to get stretch, and we're going to align my 11 football players up from sideline to sideline to get some width, so you have to cover us one-to-one. You miss a tackle, nobody's going to help you. Nobody's back there. So it worked out extremely well, but I guess the genesis is from my professional background, knowing that teams will get into a 2-minute speed drill and defenses get scared. They give you a basic front, a basic coverage, and they don't change up. No dogging, no blitzing, no cyclones. Everything is basic. And if you have a quarterback that can't count to 3, he can beat that, And then you get a good quarterback back there, it's heaven then.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a great offense. I can't understand why more pro teams don't use it for the entire game. Now you have people like Tom Brady. Every time he gets into his 2-minute speed drill, he's up and down the field scoring. Well, why don't you do that more often?
His history was made in those 2 minutes. His history, the legend of Tom Brady was made in those 2-minute drills. You're exactly right.
Exactly, Vaughn.
Well, Coach, you had some great quarterbacks in that time. You talk about quarterbacks.
Yes.
You had some quarterbacks.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did. Starting off with, I had so many that I hate to talk about any one in particular.
Right.
Because all of my quarterbacks at FAM were great. Of course, you have big old Quinn Gray. Quinn spent 5 years with me, and he redshirted his first year under Oteeman Sampson. I could have had him play that freshman year to compete with Oteeman, but it wasn't necessary, and I was happy that Quinn agreed to sit out his first year, and he worked with me in the press box, so he had an opportunity to see the offense from an aerial standpoint. But then, of course, after Oteeman graduated, then we have Pat Bonner. And Pat Bonner transferred in. That was Quinn's first year, so Quinn, again, was not going to play. But I knew his talent, and I was happy that he would hold his range back and allow everything to play out, because eventually he was going to be the man. But Pat Bonner came in, of course, and he had an unbelievable year, that 1 year.
Yeah, still records.
And we led the nation in just about every offensive category, passing, total offense, touchdowns, the whole 9 yards. And of course, then after Pat left, Quinn had his opportunity, and Quinn, of course, was nothing but the truth. Big, tall, fast, strong, smart, and he took it to another level as well. So we had some great ones there. Mario Allen, he was my first one, and he took us to our first MEAC title in 1995.
Right.
That was our second year there at FAM. And of course, he also took us to our first postseason game. It was in Atlanta at the Georgia Dome, and we played Southern.
Yep, Heritage Bowl, I believe it was.
Right, exactly.
Yep.
So, yeah, I had a lot of great quarterbacks at FAM, and of course, had some great quarterbacks at Central, and of course, also at Cheney as well. So, very fortunate, just very fortunate to be in the right place at the right time, and having a lot of people help me, football players and administrators, teachers, friends, relatives, family, especially my family. You have to say, hello, dear, football season's here. I'll see you next year when the season's over. And so you have to have a football wife,
Yeah.
And I was very fortunate to have a football wife.
Coach, it's been almost 20 years. LeBron James, what do we call it? The decision? LeBron James had the choice.
Right.
Highly publicized,
Right.
highly criticized.
Right.
FAMU had the decision because I call it the decision because you didn't have a choice.
No.
Things were done, and FAMU just declared, not in an open way. And we can talk about this now because all of those people are gone. They're not at the university.
That
but
is
it's
true.
about time we talked about it.
Yes,
A lot of people really want to know what went into that. So I got a trivia question for you.
Okay.
When we were I was attending as a media person, when we were in Lee Hall and they made the announcement that we were going 1A,
All right.
who brought up that when would we become ineligible? Do you remember who asked that question?
Eligible for Division I.
When
single A?
would we become ineligible for 1AA?
I was told by Bobby Lee.
Yeah.
And Bobby Lee approached me and said, Coach, we're going Division I single A. We're going to be the first black college to go Division I single A. And we've been winning the MEAC, and the MEAC isn't important to us anymore. And I said, whoa, this is not very easy trying to win the MEAC.
Right.
So he said, no, the MEAC doesn't mean anything else anymore. We're going Division I single A. We're going to be the first black college to go Division I. And I said, how are we going to go about that? I said, it takes a lot of logistics to be in place to really get it done. And he said, we're ready and we can do it. So next thing I know, we're in Division I, single A, and we're not really ready for it. We weren't ready financially. We didn't have the athletic infrastructure. We were just not ready for it at that time. And of course, Bobby Lee and
Corbin.
Corbin and Miss Dr. Castell, they were all supportive of going. And they knew that I wasn't in favor of it, so I was never their favorite person after that, after they knew that that wasn't something that I wanted to do. And of course, we went Division I single A, and our first game was against the University of Illinois. And, we don't have the kind of program to play Division I single A teams.
Right.
Now, we've done it for guarantees and for extra money. And of course, I was never in support of that as well because, it's demoralizing when someone puts 50, 60, 70, 80 points on you. And then, of course, you have sustained a lot of injuries. And psychologically, it's not good for your players' morale. And when you play a team that's on your level, you're not even ready for those teams.
Right.
So it wreaks havoc on your players, your staff, your schedule, and of course our fans and our supporters and our boosters. No one wants to see somebody put 50, 60 points on you. I think we played, I wasn't the coach then, but we played Ohio State, and it was on national television, and I saw the game. And I don't know, they may have put 80 or 90 points on us. And that's unfortunate.
I think it was 73, if I can recall.
Yeah, it was a total
right.
blowout. And it was on national television because I saw the game.
Right.
And I never liked the guarantees because I always said, well, look, the Ivy League schools, they won't play those major colleges for money.
Right.
They'll play the major colleges in basketball, track and field, and swimming, and golf, sports where you cannot get hurt. You sustain a lot of injuries, and of course, we remember Southern University football player sustained a catastrophic injury where he's a paraplegic. He's can't brush his teeth. And that was a game against the University of Georgia.
Georgia, yeah.
So I told our folks, look at the Ivy Leagues. You know, the Ivy Leagues, they're not playing these Division I single A football teams for money, but they will in non-contact sports, tennis, golf. I said, that's okay for that, but not in football when you're going to get beat up not only mentally, but most definitely physically as well. So I was giving my speech about, you know, playing these blood games, but no one seemed to listen because the money superseded whatever I was talking about.
One thing we didn't address, and it's a very sore spot to this day, about the way we went Division I. Willie Simmons was here, had worked out with the team all summer, was ready to go be a rattler. You had somebody from University of Miami. You had a
running back.
You had a running back from the University of Miami.
Right.
You had a team that was ready to go. That team that year was ready to go if we had stayed our normal course of Division I AA.
That's right, Mark.
But all of those people had to leave and disband and go other places. And to this day, you can tell when you talk about it, when you mention that to Willie Simmons, it's a sore spot.
Right. It was a team that was going to be my best team ever because we had not only a great high school recruiting season, but we brought in a lot of JUCOs and a lot of Division I single A transfers. And of course, Willie Simmons was going to be my quarterback. And the middle of June was when I was told, hey, we're going Division I single A, which means that transfers and recruits and junior college kids have to adhere to a different academic standard. And it means that they have to sit out a year. So my Division I single A transfers, they didn't want to sit out a year at FAM, especially Willie Simmons, because he only had one more year.
Right.
So if he sat out one more year, he wouldn't be able to play at all.
Right.
So he transferred to the Citadel. Mm-hmm. And I had other transfers as well, and other JUCO guys and other high school kids. But because of going to Division I single A and you had to adhere to a different standard, those kids dispersed and went to different universities across the country, and we were a skeletal type team after they all left. And of course,
not only were we going up in going up in opponents, we were going down in talent.
Exactly. So, needless to say, we had a miserable season. You know, we had to play. Of course, we opened up with University of Illinois. I think we played Tulane, Virginia Tech, Temple University, FAU, FIU. I don't know if Miami and Florida were in there, but we did play Miami and Florida. I'm not so sure if we played them that year. But just about everybody was Division I single A. You know, now we held on to BCU, and I'm not sure what other, maybe 2 or 3 Division I AA's that we held on to. But the schedule had to be a certain number of Division I single A's, and we played all of them on the road. You know, because they wouldn't come to FAMU. We don't have the athletic infrastructure.
Right.
You know, the stadium, you know, is not large enough.
Right.
And the other facilities we had, they were not coming to our place. So we had to play all of those Division I single A teams on the road. And of course, we had a miserable season. And at the end of the season, of course, we know what happened. You know, I got fired. Yeah, so it's very
Still a sore
unfortunate.
spot. I've never seen the media so upset. Our local media was very upset,
Right.
as were a lot of fans. A lot of people saw it for what it was,
Right.
and there's nothing most of us could do about it. So, but while we say that about Division 1A, you still seem to think that should be a goal.
Right. Yes, I think it should be a goal because the landscape for recruiting top-notch quality 5-star Division I single A football players are out there, and they would love to come to FAMU and other HBCUs. But the infrastructure has to be there, and the commitment must be there so that you can be attractive for a 5-star Division I single A kid. And of course, football, and of course basketball as well, is extremely popular in the black community.
Right.
Extremely popular. Because I could always get a 2 or 3-star athlete, not the top ball players, because they're going to go to Florida State, University of Florida, Miami, but I can get the next level football player, and he'll be just as good as the athlete that's going to FSU and University of Florida, because there's so many out there, they can't get them all. Right. You know, the limitations on scholarships. So there's so many great black athletes out there in the state of Florida and around the country that I think it would bode well for Division 1AA HBCUs to make that jump. Now, I think it would be great when the jump is made to make it as a conference, a black college conference, and go in that way where you're playing all Division I single A schools and maybe 1 or 2 schools outside of your conference. You can play an Ohio State or an FSU or Miami, but basically you'll be playing the same HBCUs, but you are now an FBS school, a Division I single A, but of course now it's FBS and FCS.
Yeah, because we all know that's where the money is.
Exactly.
At that level, it's not even your earning potential at
Exactly.
that level is just completely different.
Exactly. So I think it would be great to go in as a conference, and then 1 or 2 universities outside of your conference play them. You know, play the Ohio State, the UCLA, and the Southern Cals, and the University of Texas, and all the great ones, because now you're getting top-notch football players who can compete with them and even beat them, because you have the facility and you have the commitment and you have something that will attract the quality 5-star blue chip athletes. And of course, you will also make your program so beautiful that white kids will want to come as well, you see? And I think that would be great also, because right now, we're not getting the top black kids to come to HBCUs. And as a result, you don't get a lot of black kids from HBCUs being drafted into the NFL. We can't even get a kid drafted as Mr. Irrelevant, you know, the last guy. We can't get that now. And that's unfortunate, but it's because of integration. Now that integration has hit, and integration is great for the country, but integration was not great for HBCU football programs, because before the civil rights movement back in the 1950s and 1940s and 1930s, we were getting the best athletes, black athletes in the country. And up until maybe the 1980s, black colleges were still getting a lot of kids drafted in the NFL. You know, Too Tall Jones was drafted #1 from Tennessee State. So that can't happen now because of integration. All the great black kids are going to the major colleges, and we're not getting the 5-star blue chip athletes that we used to get. Because back in the I think it was 1938, you had an all-star black college team that played the champions of the NFL, and that was the Chicago Bears. And Coach Hurt from Morgan State, he was the coach of that team. Now they got beat, but can you imagine a black college all-star team now playing Kansas City?
No.
No way. But they could do it back then because all the great black athletes were going to black colleges. And it's unfortunate that that's not happening now, but I think if we go back to Division I, single A, and go there as a conference, I think we can get all those 5-star blue chip black athletes to come back to HBCUs, and some white kids will come back as well. Because now it's unfortunate that even Division I AA's or your FCS, we can't buy a victory in the NCAA playoffs. We get beat, and usually when we get beat, we get blown out. And the SWAC teams have never won an NCAA playoff game. Can you imagine that? All those great teams and great coaches they had, and they never ever won an NCAA playoff game. I think in 1984, Mississippi State played, I think it was it Delta State? Where did the college that is right next door to Grambling? I can't think of it just right now. Was it Louisiana Tech? Where did the quarterback from the Pittsburgh Steelers go to college?
Bradshaw?
Yeah. But at any rate, in 1984, Mississippi Valley played the team. I think it was Louisiana Tech. And they had an unbelievable team. It was called a 60-minute team where they scored 60 points a minute, you know, in 60 minutes.
Was that with Totten and Rice?
Titan and Rice and
Archie Cooley was
Archie
the coach.
Cooley.
Yeah.
And they played Louisiana Tech and got blown out, I think, 84-6 or 7. And that team was supposed to be the greatest HBCU team that ever lived. And they got blown out. But no team in the SWAC has ever won a game. And only a few teams in the MEAC has ever won an NCAA playoff game. You know, and they had Eddie Robinson and Cassim. You name all those great coaches over there, never ever won one game in the NCAA playoffs.
Pete Richardson and all of them.
Right, never won one. So eventually they decided to get out of it, you know, and to mollify their fans and their boosters, they just got out because they were getting beat, couldn't win, and getting embarrassed. So, but that was because of, you know, integration. And but now it's getting even weaker in talent because now you have the transfer portal and you have the NIL, which makes it even more difficult for HBCUs to get the quality 5-star blue chip athletes.
Coach, before we go, it would not be appropriate to have any conversation with you without talking about the Florida Classic and you and Wyatt and the showdown stuff. We can't gloss over that, Coach.
Right. Yes. Well, we've had some classic battles in the Florida Classic, and we won most of those games. But of course, when we lost control of our football program, that's when Coach got some victories on us.
Right. Right.
I think he beat us in 2004, 2003, and 2002. And that was when we were having issues at FAMU administratively. Dr. Castell Bryant was the president. Bobby Lee was the athletic director. And Corbin was head of the Board of Trustees. And they had their fingers in everything in the athletic program, especially the football program. And unfortunately, the football program really went down when they were in charge because they had their fingers all over the program, unfortunately. But of course, Coach Wyatt, great coach, great friend. Even to this day, we're great friends. And but we had some classic battles on the field and off the field.
70,000 in the stands back then. It was at the peak. That was the peak.
That's right.
Of the Florida Classic.
That's
it was
right.
had grown tremendously, and it was just the game.
Yes, it was.
So
yes,
you
it was.
Can't talk about the Billy Joe era without talking about the Florida Classic.
Yeah, when I was there, we dominated BCU.
Right.
But they did. In the end, they beat us a few times.
Yeah.
But we dominated them far more than they beat us. But Coach Wyatt, great friend, very glamorous and very outspoken. And we've had,
to say the least.
Yes, we had some good battles on the field and off the field. Right. And then, of course, when he became the coach at Edward Waters in Jacksonville, my younger brother, Coach Jimmy, was his offensive coordinator. Oh. And I had a lot of interaction with Coach at that time, and we got to be even better and closer friends then while he was the head coach of Edward Waters. But you're right, we would pack that stadium, and we sometimes seemed like we'd have more people outside barbecuing and talking that stuff.
Drinking that stuff.
And drinking that stuff. More so than in the stadium. That was a great time, really enjoyed it. It was a great time to be a FAMU booster, an alum, a fan, a coach, a player. Those were great days, and it was a great time to be a Rattler.